Coming up on Windows Weekly, Mary Jo Foley, Paul Thurrott, and I have a conversation about Microsoft's earnings. Yeah, they made a ton of money. Plus, Windows 10 X is, as they predicted, coming to not just dual-screen devices. And Mary Jo Foley shares her review of the Surface Laptop 3, and they both give me lots and lots of tips about Elvis. Plus, quite a bit more, including someone's birthday and a special beer pick just for that. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly, episode 645, recorded Tuesday, October 29, 2019. Windows Dos Equis. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Ring Central. With Ring Central, you'll get everything you need in one place for your business communication needs. With all-in-one cloud phone, video conferencing, and team messaging, staying connected has never been easier. Save with their holiday bundle offer and don't pay until 2020 when you go to ringcentral.com/windows. And by Microsoft Mechanics, the official show from Microsoft for tech enthusiasts, IT pros, and software architects. Get deep dives from the engineers behind the tech, or just learn the essentials of the latest from Microsoft. Visit aka.ms/WWMechanics to watch and subscribe today. And by Zapier. Zapier connects all your business software and handles the work for you, so you can focus on what matters most. Right now through the end of next month, go to zapier.com/windows for your free 14-day trial. Welcome back to Windows Weekly. This, of course, is a weekly look at all things Microsoft, including Windows, Office, Xbox, and so much more from two of the foremost Windows watchers in the world, Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com. Hello, Paul.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well today. Hanging in there. Breathe in, breathe out, as it were.
Yeah. Well, try to breathe in less.
Breathe out, breathe out.
Yeah.
And Mary Jo Foley of All About Microsoft. Hello, Mary Jo.
Hello, Micah.
It is yet another episode of Windows Weekly. And we both have been, rocking our laptops, and that is something I know we'll be talking about a little bit later. But I am excited to see how things have been for you, and talk about maybe some of the questions that I have after having used this Elvis for a little while.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't have questions.
Well, let's kick things off with Microsoft earnings. And I know that first in the doc is a piece from Mary Jo, but I have to say that over, Petrie.com, I need to know more about this hero image that's going on here. So we've got this excellent image of Satya Nadella sort of peeking over this highway. This is great.
I know.
To be honest,
who did that?
I did. But the one I did for last week was even better.
Really?
If you find the short takes from a week earlier. Yeah.
Oh, I need to go back and look then.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So Microsoft's doing well?
They're doing all right.
Yeah.
It looks like they've made
a bit of money.
Yeah, made a couple billion, a few billion.
Yeah. Joe, let's talk
Paul
about
said,
the commercial
a
cloud
bazillion.
first. That's our favorite
You want to
Microsoft
talk commercial
business.
cloud? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, Micah, we're going to instruct you now about a weird way that Microsoft reports earnings.
Okay.
So they made up this category a few years ago called commercial cloud. So it's not a real category. It's not the way they actually are organized internally. They take Azure and they take Office 365, Dynamics 365, Power BI, and some parts of LinkedIn, but not all of it, along with a few other cloud products. And they put them all in this one bucket and they call it commercial cloud.
Oh.
And so this is kind of how they want analysts to evaluate their performance and what they want them to use as a barometer of how they're doing, right? So if you use that category and look at their commercial cloud numbers, they're good. They're very good. They're $11.6 billion for the first fiscal 2020 quarter, which is up 36% from a year ago.
Wow.
36%
is quite a bit.
It looks pretty good, right? But, and Paul probably saw this too, right after Microsoft reported earnings last Wednesday, so many stories came out saying, yeah, you know what, but their Azure growth percentage was down.
Oh my God, that makes me crazy.
It makes me crazy too, because, okay, when Microsoft was new into the cloud and they were just starting to report Azure, they don't report Azure numbers at all. They just give you a percentage of growth, right? So the original numbers were like 76% growth, 77% growth. And now we're at a much more modest number. I'm trying to figure out what
30-something percent. Was it like 36 maybe?
Yeah. In fiscal, a year ago, it was 76%, and now it's 59%. And so many stories are like, oh, whoa, watch out. Azure growth is slowing. Guess what?
Yeah.
We don't know the percentage that number is based on, right? So you can't say that number is slowing. All you can say is the percentage of growth is slowing, which is
all we can say is it doesn't matter, and that financial analysts should have, a better idea of how the financial market works. Yeah. It's just crazy.
One would think that would be an important thing. Yeah.
I know. But their stock got dinged. You saw a headline saying Microsoft stock down because Azure growth slowing. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't mean to like rip everyone in my industry, but what the heck? It's Tuesday and we're a little off game here. But, it kind of blows my mind how people focus on the wrong thing. What Mary Jo just brought up with Azure is a great example. This is a sign of this market maturing. It's of the product maturing. This is something that should be celebrated. Of course, it's not going to have the same heady growth rate every quarter. It's a huge business now. But we also saw a bunch of people who write, like Mary Jo and I do, about Microsoft specifically, highlighting Surface and Xbox for some reason, right? Two businesses that didn't do terrifically well in the quarter for various reasons that have an almost meaningless impact on Microsoft's bottom line. I think those two businesses combined from a revenue perspective are some single-digit percentage of Microsoft revenues. Like they're not, but for people like us, like you kind of grow up with Microsoft and you're used to Windows, and you think about this company in terms of devices for some reason. Like seriously, like it's just a crazy thing to focus on. Those businesses could disappear and it wouldn't materially impact Microsoft. That's ludicrous. There's some hope for both of them for the future, for sure. But I mean, this company is all about the cloud. And when you look at the cloud, they have 3 major business units, and nearly 100% of 2 of those is cloud-based. They're making a lot of money.
Well, so it seems to me
it's like 20 billion something in revenues from the cloud.
As an outsider looking in, I easily would not go Surface and Xbox are the things that need to be paid attention to, because that doesn't seem to be anything that Microsoft ever made its goal. Like we start out with making these, the software for all of these computers all around the world, and now we've got everything in the cloud.
It's a crazy thing to focus on. I'll just say specifically because each of them has a reason, and then we can just kind of move past it. Xbox is suffering from the fact that for the first time in its life cycle, they don't have a new version of the console 2 years in, right? So every 2 years they put out a new version. This year they didn't. That new console is going to come next year instead. Naturally, console sales are down year over year. Of course they are. That's the natural cycle that occurs with this kind of a product. In Surface's case, they had a Surface Go last year that helped them in the quarter right before they released new product. This year they didn't have anything, so of course it's down when compared to last year. It's just a natural, cycle. Nothing to it's not even worth mentioning. I mean, both of them, not certainly not in a headline. I mean, we can discuss it, but it's not like the job one at Microsoft is let's make sure Xbox is, $20 billion a quarter. It's not going to happen, guys. That's not this company. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
So that's my little pet peeve right there.
Yeah. And there were some non-cloud things that are worth talking about, specifically Windows and the server products at Microsoft. Both of those groups got helped in this quarter because products that are at their end of life are starting to push sales to newer versions. So in the case of Windows, obviously, it's Windows 7 to 10. That impact is continuing to really help Windows. And they said during their earnings call, they expect it to continue through the next quarter too, because end of life, January 14, 2020, and people are still in the midst of their migration. So that momentum is going to continue. And then on server side, Windows Server 2008 and SQL Server 2008 both are ending life or have ended life in the case of SQL Server. So people are upgrading to newer versions of SQL Server or moving workloads to the cloud. And so those numbers were up too. Server products and cloud services, which is a real category of how Microsoft reports, up 30% in the quarter. And a large part of that because of the retirement of these two products.
Yep. Yeah. And, and this is another transitionary thing too, because Microsoft doesn't want to really focus on these on-prem businesses too much because they're pushing the cloud. But the truth is, Microsoft, again, has three primary business units. I talked about the other two being cloud. The third of the three is primarily Windows. And that thing delivered about 11.1 billion in revenues for the quarter. And this was the second straight sequential quarter, kind of interesting, where those three business units all delivered almost identical revenues. It was like 11.1, and I think 10.8. On the other, and it was almost identical last year. The thing that's interesting is that year over year, it's those cloud businesses that are growing a lot, like Intelligent Cloud, which is one of the three, grew 27% year over the year, whereas more personal computing, which is the part of Microsoft that is Windows and Xbox and Surface, only grew 4%. So this little deadlock is going to break at some point, and then obviously the cloud businesses are each going to continue to escalate up. But as of today, I mean, they make an incredible amount of money off of legacy products.
Yeah.
So one of the things I used to listen to and live transcribe Apple's earnings reports when I worked for iMore. And one of the things that people always were interested in it was mostly whenever you would have the analysts asking questions and you'd get the responses from Tim Cook and Luca. But my question is, does Microsoft also have those little tidbits of information that sort of hint at the future? And maybe what were some of these that we learned in this earnings call?
So just real quick, just so he knows, I'm sorry. So normally, historically, they have not announced earnings on Wednesdays, right?
Okay.
I would say historically, it's usually happened on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. On Fridays, that's when I write that column, which is the short takes thing. So that column, when I cover their financial report, is usually not the news of what happened, but rather that exact thing you just described. So they have a call with analysts and press. They talk about things, they answer questions, and those little tidbits come out. And that's what this thing has been. This year it was this particular quarter, and I think last quarter might have been the same, right? Didn't they do it on Wednesday last time too?
Maybe.
Or sometime recently, something like that. It screws up my flow a little bit,
right?
Because I'm used to doing, I would listen in, note the stuff, go back and look for the transcript the next day, and pull it out exactly. But anyway, that was literally the point of this. So I'm sorry, Mary Jo, you were going to pull out some stuff, I think.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to pull out is about gaming. Amy Hood, the CFO of Microsoft, said very plainly, by the way, next quarter, we think our gaming revenues are going to be down 20%.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right. So, they got some questions on that. And again, just like Paul said, it's about the transition from the dependence on Xbox consoles to xCloud, and they talked a bit about xCloud during the call. But the thing I was really focused on is in their more personal computing category, which is where Windows is, right? There was a line item I saw that said Windows commercial products and services growth. And that number was 26%. And I'm like, what is even in that category, right? So I asked, and they said, that's Microsoft 365. Like not exclusively, but heavily. So Microsoft 365 is Windows sold as a subscription, Windows 10 Enterprise, E3, E5, Office 365, and enterprise mobility and security, which is like Intune and related products. And, we write about that a lot and we talk about that a lot, but it's just seemingly starting to gain some traction with customers. And this was the first time I remember seeing that number and being like, oh, what is that? So that's a sign that people are starting to buy more Microsoft 365 instead of these products all separately.
Okay.
which I found very interesting.
Yeah, every quarter I kind of look for a Microsoft 365 number, and they
You can't find one. Yeah.
Yeah, and Microsoft has a habit or a tradition, I guess, of giving a certain number one quarter and then talking about it by a different metric the next quarter. It makes it hard to do a quarter over quarter or a year over year analysis. That 20% thing on Xbox that you mentioned, I think I can explain that. A year ago, Microsoft had 2 relatively good quarters for Xbox unexpectedly, and they credited, how did they say it? See if I can find this. Yes, a strong third-party title, which was Fortnite, right? So in other words, Fortnite was so successful that it literally lifted all ships, including Microsoft's. And so Xbox actually had just an unusual bonus 2 quarters in a row. And so part of the problem this year, they specifically called it out. They never say Fortnite, but they say that gaming revenue declined 7%. Amy Hood said it was driven by lower console sales, and also where is this thing? Offset by a strong third-party title in the prior year. So growth in some of their first-party titles was actually offset by losses because Fortnite isn't generating as much money for them anymore. Wow. Kind of a weird. So I think that's a big part of that 20%. And also the lower console sales, of course.
This is a little. Well, continue if this is more.
Yeah,
I
2 things. You asked what you pull out of the call.
Yeah.
Couple of things. And both of these play on Ignite, which is happening next week, Microsoft's biggest trade show. The first one was developer stuff. I was really amazed in a way to hear Satya Nadella right up front, before anyone asked any questions. He gave the kind of opening statement. He talked about developer stuff. Now, this isn't the first time he's ever mentioned developer stuff, because he mentions GitHub from time to time and things like that. But he actually talked about the Power Platform, about the Microsoft 365 extensibility. That's the extensibility framework for Microsoft 365. He did talk about GitHub, and he said specifically at Ignite, you're going to see us take the next leap forward in terms of how we think about architecture, inclusive of application models, programming models, on what distributed computing looks like going forward. This says to me that there's going to be a big developer push at Ignite, which hasn't always been the case, right?
And you know what he was referring to? He didn't actually get in the weeds here, but last week, I think it was, Mark Russinovich, the CTO of Microsoft, announced 2 new open source specs for developing distributed microservices. One is called OAM, one's called Dapper. And I'm guessing they've got to explain this more at Ignite, because they kind of just dropped the news last week and they were like, yeah, there we go. We introduced a couple new open source specs. Have at it, Kubernetes people.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, what was that?
my own bias, and it probably matches yours, is what I really want to hear about is whatever the developer story is for Windows, and specifically Windows 10X. And also this little Android thing they're doing, right? The Surface Duo. Like, I'm hoping there might be something there. I know build is next spring, et cetera, but I think that would be cool.
Me too.
The other one that they pulled out a bunch of times, and this was like, it's funny because they use the term infused, and you could say they kind of infused the talk with this, is AI. They continually use the phrase, or something like the phrase, that we are infusing our products with AI. The message there was basically that everything that they make, no matter what it is, will be, and literally this was their term, infused with AI across the board. Like it's some kind of a cocktail.
Oh, okay, yes.
Right?
I was
We're
just
going to
about
rub
to say,
the inside of the glass with AI.
We have to have a Patch Tuesday cocktail infused with AI at some point.
The AI infusion.
Yes.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what it means, but we'll figure that out, right? Or your wife will figure that out.
Yeah.
But the other thing they said was really interesting, because one of the things historically for Microsoft that is becoming a little difficult as the company transitions into the cloud is it's a big partnering company, right? It relies very heavily, or has historically relied very heavily on partners. For example, PC makers in the Windows era. Mm-hmm. This is in sharp contrast to, say, a company like Apple, which does everything it can to get rid of partners as quickly as it can. It wants to do everything.
Right.
But as it moves to the cloud, that gets a little tough because you try to involve third-party services and things as much as you can, and you try to get resellers to, sell Office 365 or Microsoft 365, but the opportunities just aren't as good there. So, but even in AI, Satya Nadella said, and I'm going to try to get this quote exactly, that Microsoft's advances in AI would also help its partners. He said, we build everything at Microsoft so that first party equals third party with Azure as the core platform. And so I know it's a little vague, but he seems to be suggesting that everything they're doing will be available to partners, and that it won't be a Microsoft exclusive, because you get into that weirdness like with Surface, for example, where they're building custom chipsets that are not available to their partners. And I think that's a really awkward problem for a company that built itself on partnering with other companies, that you're essentially now competing with them as well.
Yeah, that does make it a little bit difficult. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, and it's a little bit earlier, and this is sort of just a peek into things. You mentioned that they were talking about how a third-party title sort of helped with Xbox sales at one point,
Yep.
and now that has sort of not gone as well. Mm-hmm. Do you think that third-party title also helped sell more Windows systems as a whole? Of course, when people are buying, gaming computers and things like this to play, did it help Microsoft?
I'm going to say probably not.
Okay.
Right. So I think it helped sell PlayStations just like it helped sell Xboxes. Mm-hmm. If you play Fortnite, if you've ever played Fortnite, I think one of the things that's neat about Fortnite is that the system requirements actually aren't all that high. Okay. That they achieved really fast frame rates by using kind of cartoonish graphics and so forth. And of course, it's like a single level basically, and whatever. So Fortnite arrived on the heels of like PUBG, which is a really resource intensive game, and Fortnite is not, comparatively speaking. So I think people who were already gaming on PCs could very seamlessly move from PUBG to Fortnite and would experience better performance no matter what computer it was, or along the lines of something like Apex Legends is like that too. It's just not as top heavy. So I don't think that Fortnite contributed to a PC sales surge or whatever.
Gotcha.
I don't think so, but that's just. I've never really thought about it, but I don't believe so.
Just a theory. It kind of made me wonder, but that makes sense. Well, folks, we have so much more to talk about. And a little birdie, a.k.a. several birdies, told me that today is someone's birthday. So I don't know if that person wants me to tell the world about that, but happy birthday to a certain person on this call.
Yes, Mary Jo, happy birthday. And
Not yet. Mine's coming up. Not yet.
Paul, happy birthday.
Thank you.
There you go, chat. They're no longer freaking out. You have to tell him happy birthday.
Yep.
We won't be singing.
Sushi will be consumed sometime in the next, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours.
Good. Hopefully it's not resting for 7 hours before you can see.
Right. It's sitting out there now waiting for me to finish the show. It'll be fine.
Well, folks, I am excited to tell you that this episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Ring Central. Ring Central is the #1 global cloud phone system that does pretty much everything. Ring Central allows your business to have effortless communication. So it's great for when you're on the go. You can work remotely and manage your business from your mobile device by seamlessly switching between the desktop and mobile without dropping a call. You can route calls, you can set up video conferencing, you can utilize team messaging, online fax. Sometimes you still got to send faxes. You can integrate with all of your favorite apps. That includes Gmail, Zapier, we know them, Salesforce, Microsoft Outlook, and more. You can retrieve voicemails, which also has a transcription feature. So if you're stuck in a meeting, you don't have to listen. You can just discreetly check your messages. I have to say that voicemail feature with transcription is really nice, because sometimes you just want to be able to read that text, not have to listen back for all the pauses in the message. You just want to quickly get it and move right on. It's the solution that grows with you and your company, and it makes it very easy to add additional users. Now, it's important to note Ring Central is more than just a phone system. You may have heard about it as a way to set up phone services for your employees, but now it does so much more. And in fact, it's been doing so much more for quite a while. You're going to simplify your workflow so you can connect easily with customers and employees, giving you effortless service with any mode, on any device, anywhere. Their app provides flawless integration, letting you transition from your personal phone to your computer during a call. RingCentral's app is ahead of its time by letting you send business SMS from your personal phone. You don't even have to transfer your contacts into the app. It automatically populates them for you. They even let you port existing numbers over from other services. So when you're ready to make the switch to RingCentral and you're using some other phone service, they make that super simple. You can keep your number. You're not going to have to recontact all your clients and things like that. They make it super easy to switch. RingCentral is the complete communication solution from one vendor, and it starts as low as $19.99, saving you money and cutting your phone costs by at least 30%. Plus, they also have customer service 24/7 via telephone, live chat, and email if you need them. Now, our phones here at Twit are actually RingCentral, and when we spoke with the folks at RingCentral, we realized just how much more powerful this platform is. And so where, you might be looking at, I'm going to get my messaging service here, and I'm going to get my phone service here, and I'm going to get my fax service here, and you're kind of trying to figure out what works. Well, RingCentral is going to take care of all of that for you. You go to one place, you get it all. It's very simple to do. And by the way, their app is super slick. So when you sign up today, you're going to get instant access to RingCentral's award-winning powerful phone system with text, fax, video conferencing, and more. Take advantage of their special holiday bundle offer for Windows Weekly's audience only. That's you out there. And don't pay until 2020 when you go to ringcentral.com/windows. Once again, that's ringcentral.com/windows. Thank you so much, RingCentral, for sponsoring this week's episode of Windows Weekly. And now we're back because we've got leaks, folks. There are leaks that are talking about how Windows 10X, which is not called 1010 or XX. I think I called it Windows Dos Equis, but that was just me.
I like it.
It's not just for these dual screen phones and folios, correct?
Correct.
That's literally what we've been saying.
Yes.
I know.
This is not even a leak. Yeah, you folks have been saying this since the beginning.
But this document confirmed it. And so it might have been with you, it might have been with Lee, I don't remember, but sometime in the past couple of weeks, Mary Jo and I expressed our confusion that Microsoft continues to insist publicly that Windows 10X is only about dual screen devices, because that's literally not what we've heard.
Right.
And this marketing material that leaked out says exactly that. It will also be provided on clamshell, normal laptops in the future as well. So it's nice. Yeah. It's nice not to be wrong like 100% of the time. You get the 1.1% in there every once in a while.
Everybody
it's a birthday win.
Yay!
Yeah, exactly.
That's your present today. You get warm sushi and a birthday win.
Yes, right.
Nice. Right. Yeah, and so for me, the biggest part of it being available on clamshells goes back to the original leaks we heard for when we called this Windows Lite and we called it Santorini. We kept hearing this was part of Microsoft's Chromebook compute strategy. But then when they talked about 10X and they said, yeah, it's for these dual screen devices, I'm thinking, that's not their Chromebook compete, right? That can't be. It's going to be too expensive.
Some of us had seen shots of this thing that looked a lot like Chrome OS.
It does.
A lot.
And so if you look at our posts, I've got it in the top of my post what the launcher looks like. So the launcher is the new start experience for this, and this is from Microsoft's own documentation. It's just a whole different thing than what Windows 10 looks like, and it looks a lot like Chrome.
It does. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah.
Looks simple. Looks
clean.
It's search based. It's you've got your little microphone there to talk to people, and then I like that it's surfacing your documents down. Surfacing your documents down at the bottom.
Nice.
It's the brand that keeps on giving.
Now, can you talk about Windows 10X overall? It's a trimmer version, correct? It's going to be more battery friendly. Is this for devices that are like iPads, they're instant start, etc.? They're more mobile. Is that the whole idea with Windows 10X?
Yeah, that's a good piece of the idea. So the underpinnings of 10X is this thing we've talked about a lot called Windows Core OS, WCOS, right? So that means I shouldn't say anything. Anything running 10X with Windows Core OS in it will be for new devices. So this isn't something we don't think is going to backport to any existing Windows 10 devices. It's for all new ones starting with Surface Neo Neo. Am I saying the right name? Yeah, Neo, which is that dual screen thing that looks like the Courier.
You're going to doubt yourself every time you say one of those names.
I am. I know. Neo and Duo. I still cannot get those straight in my head.
Duo I can do,
is
but
the
Neo.
phone.
Yeah, Neo. I'm still like, okay, the one, Matrix. Got it.
Yeah.
Neo. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good way to think of it. So this is supposed to give them a cleaner, lighter, less cluttered, more manageable experience for Windows than you currently have.
Right.
So who's this for? Who what?
Well, by the way,
why do we need to be less
so just real quick, I mean, we should say that is both visually and from a user experience standpoint, but also internally, right? So part of the constant modularity, the work that they've done for Windows, they're trying to strip it down to the bare essentials as much as they can. This is a company that doesn't give up on legacy technology very easily, unlike, say, Apple. And so there's a bunch of gunk left in Windows. Some of it that probably dates back to the 1980s. And so what they're trying to do is make this system, smaller, lighter, more energy efficient, et cetera. So to what you were speaking to, the iPad type mobile devices, but also work on traditional PC form factors as well, and then offer some way to run legacy Windows applications. And of course, those will be heavier and will require more work. But to your question, who is this for? Mm-hmm. It's for everyone. I mean, the problem for Windows is kind of like the problem with Mac OS. I mean, over time, you almost view it as a workstation operating system that's for special use cases. People who, play video games, for example, or people who are engineers, or people who are software developers, or people who are creatives that have specific high-end needs along those lines. And once you get past those kind of important markets, but also kind of niche markets, there's this giant mainstream of people, and they don't need all that stuff. If their apps run on this thing, it's Word, Excel, it's email and calendar and web browsing. I mean, we've just hit on 90-something% of what people need on a computer. Most people, and it's just, why wouldn't that thing be simpler? I mean, one of the beauties of an iPad type system, even though you bump into the limitations pretty quickly if you try to use it like a laptop or whatever, is, the simplicity of it. It's just tap, go, it's simple. And I think that's definitely something they've envied for a long time, Microsoft, and something they've wanted for Windows for a long time. It's just been it's tough. It's tough to take something giant and whittle it down and have it still work.
Well, and Mary Jo, you note in here too, this has some references to what Panos, is it Panos or Panos? Well, it sounds like it could be either.
It could be either, I think.
Our guy was talking about...
I would say Panos is how I say it. But I
say Panos too, but I don't know how he says it.
Gotcha. Well, he talks about his kids, and he talks about playing piano, and he talks about staying in your flow. And you mentioned that this 10X simplified thing is supposed to kind of help people stay in their flow. You're moving from one app, one experience to the next one, and you both are trying to hold in your giggles. Yeah.
Aside from his daughter, next year it's going to be completely different.
So his daughter will be there. But
there's a little theme every year. It's kind of funny. Like one year there was this really disconnected story that had something to do with basketball, and nobody had any idea what he was talking about. And after the event, I think it was Mary Jo and I was just like, "What do you think?" And it was like something basketball.
Yeah,
it was
a basketball story. Yeah.
Something about moving ahead of the puck, but it's a basketball.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I don't.
You got to skate ahead of the basketball. You got
to skate ahead of the basketball.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? It makes sense that they have this theme and the wording in this, because what leaked was a design document, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about designers, they try to think about things from like a headier perspective, not like us, like, hey, can I use this thing on my lap? Not like that. They think like, it's all about your flow and like flowing from your phone to your PC and this and that. I'm obviously not a designer. I don't think like that. But the person whose documents these are, Regina San, it looks like from the leaked document, is a senior designer on the Microsoft 365 Foundational Experiences and Devices team. And the reason that name is also significant is how Microsoft designs devices anymore, and how they think about Office 365 and Windows is these teams all working together. It sounds really Pollyannish, but this is actually how they do it. They all sit in a room together now, Windows, Surface, Office 365, and Intune. And they're like, how can we make something that uses products from all of our teams together in a way that makes sense and that furthers the customer experience. So that's why you see these words like this recurring.
Wow. Right? So this is a little bit like a pitch, not a pitch meeting, but sort of the sit down with all of in the writer's room kind of thing.
Yep.
Except they're designing. I mean, whether we call it flow or we call it playing the piano or we call it skating ahead of the basketball, whatever it happens to be, I love the idea of sort of basing things around search. I already, on the Mac, that's how I work. On my iOS device, that's how I work. I have apps on apps on apps on my phone, but I use the search functionality to launch the apps that I want. And so that's why one of the first questions I had for Paul with the Surface laptop was, how do I quickly access the search feature that's a little bit like Spotlight on the Mac? Because that's just how I think. And so if there's a simplified version that lets me sort of base my work around that, I think it's great.
Right. So do you actually need the answer to that question?
Oh, no, you answered it for me last time. Yeah, so we're good to go.
I thought we handled it.
Yeah, that one's been good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Microsoft's building this, has been working on this for a couple of years, but they're doing this thing they call Microsoft Search instead of Windows Search, right? And it's a unified search experience that goes across Edge, Credge, Bing, Office, and Windows. So they're trying to make the search mechanism on all those things the same, which if you're an outsider and an I guy like you are, you're probably like, yeah, of course. Right. Mm-hmm. But in Microsoft world, that hasn't been the way it is. There have been all different kinds of search boxes doing different things in different places. And now they're making this one thing. And so this unified search will continue on in 10X and be improved beyond what it is now.
Why don't they call it Cortana? And that's not me being funny.
Actually, by the way, funny you say that, they did.
Oh.
And until this very latest version, I guess the last version of Windows, Cortana and search were intertwined. It was Cortana was the search. It's not really, but they tried to combine them. And there are a lot of problems with that approach. One of the big ones is that Cortana hasn't been ideally internationalized, so it's not necessarily available everywhere. Or if it is available, it doesn't have all the features, et cetera. So in 1903, I think it was, they split those two things apart. This has a few advantages. They can update Cortana on Windows more frequently, for one thing, so that's kind of cool. It's a standalone app if you do want to use it. But you know what? I think that the truth is, if you think about how an assistant works on, I would imagine it's true on iOS. I'm not as familiar, but on Android, certainly it is true. The act of searching your phone for an app like you're doing, and the act of interacting with the assistant because you want to know what the weather is or the traffic or whatever you use it for, those are actually kind of different things when you think about it, right?
Yes, yeah.
Even though, I guess technically, you're searching for something, whatever, but searching a phone for an app, to me, is a very different act than searching the web for a fact, or whatever. Even though they're both search, so to me, those are two different things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just, because at the last I heard, the Cortana was kind of being pivoted into a sort of souped up Clippy. And so okay.
It's even worse than that, but.
Okay. So it seemed to me like that would be a good way to sort of, you keep Cortana around instead of calling it Windows or Microsoft Search. But does Microsoft feel like Cortana is also a little bit, what is it, persona non grata?
Tainted.
Yeah. Tainted love.
Maybe.
That could be.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I honestly, I bet it's not as bad as tainted. It's probably just most people are either unaware or are ambivalent about it.
Okay.
I don't think that
I really think they need. I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think they need to change the name of Cortana as it continues, right? Because the thing people think of as it now is like Siri and like Google Assistant.
Yeah,
but
I agree with that.
What it's going to be is different, right? It's going to be almost like plumbing.
They have some Azure services.
So we're going to call it Mario.
Yeah, well, the codename Mario. When you have a front-facing assistant, like Google doesn't have back-end Google Compute Cloud services that are called Google Assistant something, or at least I hope they don't. So Microsoft does that kind of thing, and it is a little bit confusing. But I think on PC form factors, assistant usage is probably really low, and I don't think that has anything to do with Cortana or any perceived quality problems. I don't think a lot of people would use Alexa on a PC or use the Google Assistant.
Yeah, I think that's, I agree with the first one.
Overall, compared to phones.
Yeah.
Or compared to standalone devices. I don't think, even though.
Yeah. Talking about PC.
Like you have a bunch of Amazon devices around your house, and maybe you put the Alexa app on your Windows computer. I guess it doesn't matter where you are in your house. You can talk, and whichever device responds, who cares? But I don't think most people put the computer into that world. They just don't think, I open this thing up when I have to do something terrible and work related for the most part, right?
Terrible and work related.
Well, you know what I mean? Like they don't think of it as like I'm going to leave the laptop open over there and talk to it all day long. Like I just don't think most people think that way.
I agree. I mean, even with as comparatively deeply integrated as Siri is in macOS, I don't use Siri on the Mac. I don't. Yeah. So I think that you're spot on there. I suppose whether it's a branding issue or a usability issue or what have you, it is weird right now that I have, which this is probably my fault, in my what is it called, the bar at the bottom, the start bar, tab bar, pin bar,
taskbar, yep.
Taskbar in my taskbar. Ding 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 ding.
I was going to let you flounder there for a while, but keep going. The dock,
There's both the dock. There's both a search bar, and then Cortana is right next to it, and
so that's why, right? So in other words, those used to be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now by making it separate, you don't have that intermixing of things that aren't related in any way, which I think confuse people. It's also bad for those many countries where it just doesn't work. It doesn't work properly. And by having it be separate, it's something you can update every single day, like an app, because it is an app, right? So there's some benefits to it. That search box is superfluous. If you understand how Windows works, you don't need any of those buttons they give you in the beginning. So there's like a task view button.
Yeah.
There's a search box and there's a Cortana box. All of those things can be launched in other ways. And so, you asked about search. I mean, if you just hit the start button and start typing, you're getting the same thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need
can I say something?
So I don't have to have the search bar down there in order to use that start feature that you just mentioned?
You don't.
Okay.
You don't. But I think it's really good they kept it there for normal people, right? Because I've tried to explain this to my mom a few times. I'm like, so you don't need to actually go in that box? And she's like, I don't know what you're even saying, right? Like when I want to search something, I go in the box. I mean, I do it too. Like it's just a habit, right? And when it's not
by the way, you are 100% right. It is there for that reason. It's so people understand that they can search. Start search is non-discoverable, right?
It is.
But if you just hit the start button, type a letter, and then backspace over it, you get the same window that you get from the search box. So you don't need, all it's doing is taking up valuable real estate. You can get rid of it. You can get rid of it if you want to, or you can keep it if you want to.
Can I launch Task View via Magic as well, or do I?
Yeah. So I use a keyboard command for that, but it's Windows key plus tab.
Plus tab, Windows tab. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what I didn't know that I just learned this morning, and I was like, oh, I can't wait. I'm doing Windows Weekly today so I can talk about this.
Yep.
With the Task View, I love this timeline feature where I can see the tasks. This is brilliant. So well, I'm sure everybody out there already knows, but if you're here because you come from iOS today and you knew that I was hosting the show or whatever, on Windows, there's this task view option where you can scroll back in a timeline and see what different tasks, what different apps and things you had open on different days.
I'm going to blow your mind, by the way.
Okay.
It also works on mobile.
What?
Yes. So it's obviously better on Android, but on iOS you can get some task view stuff. I think through Edge Mobile probably, and the Microsoft Office apps. It's kind of like a Microsoft app by app basis kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. If you use an Android phone, you can actually get a timeline if you use the Microsoft Launcher directly in the UI, which is kind of cool. But again, the Microsoft mobile apps will contribute to this. So if you allow for cross-device support, not only will you sync between your different Windows computers, but you'll sync between your different compatible Microsoft mobile apps as well.
That's so cool.
So, Paul, do you ever use this feature ever?
No.
Me neither. I thought I was going to use it so much.
Yeah. I think, by the way, but let me be clear about that, because I think this thing is a fantastic idea. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's a little bit like that search box we were just talking about.
Yeah.
The reason I don't use this is because I'm old. And I have a very specific way of working, and this type of thing is not necessary for me because I organize things in such a way that I always go back to what I was working on, and I don't need this. But a lot of people, I don't think they just think differently than I do. It's fine. And so the notion of, like, I'm just looking at mine right now. Like, you scroll through, I can see everything I wrote over the past couple of days. I can see the images I opened. I can see some web stuff. I mean, it's super useful. I don't use it.
Yeah.
but
I know.
But it's not because it's not a good idea. It's just not.
No,
it's just
what I've been using more, and I thought this was going to be something I would never use, and I've been using it a lot. Go to office.com, right?
Okay.
And if you're signed in, you see all the things you're working on right there too.
So that's interesting you say that, because here's something you might want to try. So one of the things I've been working on for the past month or so is I spend some time, not every single day actually, but I tried to do that for a while. It's not really possible, but I would say 3-4 days a week, I spend time on the afternoons working on a Chromebook. Now, of course, in a Chromebook where it's very much engineered to go to Google services, integrate with Google Drive, blah, 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 all that stuff. There's some interesting stuff you can do to overcome that if you want to use the Microsoft stuff. So you want to use OneDrive, you want to use in this case, you're going to use either the mobile Word, I use Word, the mobile Office apps, or the web-based Office apps, whatever. So you can do what you just said. But one thing you can do, and you can do it now, you can do it in Windows too. I don't do it in Windows, I do it in Chrome OS. But there's a Microsoft Office extension for your browser. And it provides that office.com interface up in the corner. So if what you're looking for is like, I was just working on a document, like a Word document, in my case, it'll always be a Word document. It's like right there. It's like, so if you kind of want to live in the browser, and again, for me, it's just a little mentality thing. Like I'm just not used to doing things that way. Like it's actually a really handy way to do it. You don't even have to open a web page. It's there from wherever you are. It's actually pretty cool. You should look at that.
Yeah, I should.
Very neat.
Tips and tricks right here.
I love this. You know what? Maybe next week we'll have to have a tips and tricks section. Since I'm here and I want to learn everything I can about this machine. Folks out there are like, no, please, we know all the tips and tricks. Ugh.
No, you know what?
Well, no,
we're hearing from a lot of people who say, we love that you're doing this with Micah because I forgot this or I didn't know that. And so it's being helpful even to people who are in the Windows world.
My tip today, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not going to say it now, but I mean, so this just came up for me today because I was actually, let me not say it. I mean,
okay.
So, but it's a thing. some people are going to say, like I understand how that works. But I think some people kind of forget, and there are, whether it's, Windows key plus tab to get task view or, hit start and just start typing. Some people, are going to say, I get that. Like, I know that, Some people are like, wait, what was that? It's just something they've never run into.
That happens to me with iOS all the time. My co-host on one of the shows, a different show that I do, he is like super into automation on iOS.
You do different shows?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is my favorite one. So, but I learn new things all the time. I don't know. It's fun.
We all should learn new things all the time.
Totally.
Isn't that the point?
That is the point of life. Well, we have, again, lots more to talk about, including Mary Jo Foley's review of the Surface Laptop 3, which apparently involves a little bit of sing-songiness. But before we get there, I want to tell you folks about Microsoft Mechanics, Microsoft's official show about the latest Microsoft tech. Every week they do engineering deep dives on the latest tech announcements from Microsoft. They touch on trending IT topics and bring you detailed step-by-step multi-part tutorials. So apparently this is something I need to be checking out. So you get the recent series for Windows Virtual Desktop or large-scale Windows and Office deployment. Oh, maybe this is for people who are a little more involved than I am. These aren't your usual rambling how-to videos or off-the-cuff tech interviews. These are carefully crafted, verbally and visually, with demos and how it works graphical explanations. It is in-depth, it gives you everything you need to know, and it's not just put together at the last minute. Most are under 15 minutes, so they get to the point without wasting your time. They're like the visual Cliff's Notes for Microsoft tech. And the best part is, it's free. You'll want to check out everything from the latest Surface devices, cloud or on-premises infrastructure improvements across Azure and Windows, database architectures, management and admin tools, security and compliance controls, productivity innovation, and more across Microsoft's complete range of products and services for business. And if you're going to Microsoft Ignite in Orlando this November, which is just around the corner, the Mechanics team will be presenting live every day with engineering and product leaders Mark Rusinovich, Aaron Chappell, Brad Anderson, Julia White, Rob Lefferts, and more, so you can see the tech in action behind the announcements. So whether you're a tech enthusiast, an IT professional, or architect looking to stay up to date, visit aka.ms/WWMechanics today and subscribe. That's aka.ms/WWMechanics, all one word there, or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Watch Microsoft Mechanics, your free go-to source to discover the latest Microsoft tech. And thanks so much to Microsoft Mechanics for sponsoring Windows Weekly. We do appreciate it. All right. It's been on the lap. It's been in our hearts, and it's been covered in beautiful blue suede. Well, at least mine has. Mary Jo Foley, tell us about your Sandstone Beauty.
Yep. So today I posted my 1 week in review of the Surface Laptop 3 based on Intel Core i7. And as I wrote in my review, when I started out reviewing this, I had to buy it myself because I didn't get a review unit. So I bought it and I thought, you know what? It's good. 30-day return. I'll be returning it after about 3 days, probably. Because, I just haven't really been a huge fan of the Surface hardware. I haven't. So when I started using it, I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually not that bad. And then I used it more. And then I started using it on my lap. And then I brought it out in public and used it on my lap. And I'm like, okay, it's good that it's lappable. This is the first Surface I've used that I would consider to get the MJF lappability seal of approval.
Oh, my goodness.
But there's more. And I really like the feel of the keyboard. It took a little getting used to because there's so much room between the bottom of the device and where the keys are. At first, I was like, I have to reach way up to get these keys. But the trackpad's bigger, and it's a precision trackpad. I just have been really liking it, and I was so surprised that I liked it. So yeah, I gave it a thumbs up. There are some things I would like to see them fix and change still. For example, you use the Surface connector to power this thing. Mm-hmm. Why, when it's all powered up, doesn't the light go off or change color or something? Because you don't know when it's done powering up.
Okay.
Like that was one of those things. I'm like, oh wait,
like
why
it could
doesn't
go
it
green or something?
Yeah. Go from red to green.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I also kind of wonder if they couldn't make this a little lighter. And so it weighs 2.8 pounds, but because it's a 3:2 aspect ratio device, I'm guessing what's going on here. The center of gravity maybe is somewhere different than it is in a 16:9 laptop. And so when I put it in my bag, it feels so much heavier than a 16:9 laptop weighing 2.8 pounds.
Interesting.
Why?
It feels so lightweight to me.
Does it?
I can hold it in one hand.
Well, you're coming from a MacBook Pro.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, and I'm coming from a 15-inch MacBook Pro as well.
So I bought one of those and returned it because it was too heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I put this in my bag and carry it around on my shoulder. And after day one, I'm like, oh, my shoulder's killing me. And I don't usually have that.
So I wanted to, sort of say publicly what I told Mary Jo privately, which is that you have no business reviewing, and please stop. No, which was that. I thought her review was excellent and honest and real. And, Mary Jo will always be very humble about this, and I'm not a reviewer or whatever, but I have to be honest. I find your style of reviewing to be better than most reviews and is more useful, I think, to real people than most reviews, because most reviewers, like tech reviewers these days, like the YouTuber type people, they get 1,000 devices a year. They play with it for 3 days. They never think about it again. And I think we've lost track of the fact that these things cost real money. Mm-hmm. It's a significant investment for anyone who's going to buy something like that. And that there's a responsibility that needs to be, held to. I think your review was great. I thought it was really, really good.
Thanks.
I just have to double down on that because something that I have actively complained about as often as I can is the lack of empathy in tech journalism as a whole. Yeah. A lot of times we get a little too up in our own little
it's unbelievable.
heads about things.
It's like I saw there was a guy on Twitter the other day, like, I finally got my Pixel from Google. It's like, oh, well, isn't that nice, princess, for you?
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and so I appreciate anytime someone is focusing on how this device can be used for a real person as opposed to, like you said, the person that gets 1,000 devices, I think is great. So I was genuine when I said I was really looking forward to seeing this review hit. I'm glad it's here.
Thanks. It was funny. Yesterday I'm like, I should get some photos, right? So I brought it down to a little local craft beer place near me called City Beer. And I'm sitting there using it. And then I said to the bartender, hey, could you take a picture of me using this laptop on my lap? And he's like, okay. I'm like, it's a long story. And I told him the whole story over a beer. And he was
good.
like, okay.
Was it a tasty beer?
It was, of course, an IPA.
Was it sandstone colored?
You know what's funny? So the counters in there are kind of a weird marbled color. And I'm like, I wonder how it's going to look with the beautiful. So the color of this laptop, by the way, if you haven't seen one of them, it's beautiful. Like nice. People say to me, wow, what is that? You know, it's really, really a nice looking machine.
Yeah, in fact, I've been getting the same thing with Elvis here. Folks who've been watching the different shows, because I've been using it on every show but iOS Today where I use my iPad. And they're like, what is that laptop you have? Is there a case on that? What is that? And then folks that have seen it just in the office that are walking by, I really wish that Apple would do some fun colors and things like that, because it's genuinely a beautiful machine. I just looked up Sandstone IPA, and there are a few out there. So there you go. Hunt one of those down.
I'll have to find one.
So is this going to be the machine that you make your machine? I know, again, I keep going back to twit.community, but you posted on there, what's going to be your next laptop. Do you think that the Surface Laptop 3 can be that?
It's one of the finalists for sure. I have one more machine I want to look at that I think I'm going to get to review in about a week or so, and I don't want to be a spoiler about it. So it's in the running, and this is the first, I'll tell you, the first Surface device that I would be like, yep, I'm actually buying it, and I think it's going to be great. I'm actually taking this device to Ignite next week and making it my PC that I'm bringing. So
I mean, I've always,
you liked the laptop way more than me.
Yeah. I like the Surface Laptop a lot. I always have. And Surface Book too, as well. Fantastic. And I'll be using a Surface Pro 7 at Ignite. Hopefully the battery lasts based on my experience so far. That might be tight. But and of course the portability of that particular machine is fantastic. But yeah, I'd prefer the bigger screen. I mean, I think a 13.5 inch 3x2 display kind of cuts a neat middle ground between a 13, which I find to be a little small, and a 14, which is usually pretty ideal at 16:9. So to me, it's like just right. Like it's like the Goldilocks laptop,
Oh, yes.
Wow. Nice.
Yep.
Not too suede, not too
right.
It's just right.
Yeah.
Oh, I was actually going to ask which device you were bringing, so you answered that question for me.
Micah, so are you going to write a review or do a verbal review or anything? Because you know what I think would be great is somebody who's a Mac user full-time reviewing this.
Yeah, so I actually, one of the shows that we do, Hands on Tech, it's a video review show. And so I'm planning on talking all about this device on there. And so while we're at it, there have been a few things that have happened that I am curious about. It starts with Chrome on this laptop. By the way, I downloaded Credge, but I have not yet used it because I like the syncing features that are available in Chrome. But anyway, do you folks run into issues? I know you use OneNote for this, but do you use any Google Drive products like Google Docs, Google Sheets and everything?
Yeah.
I keep having an issue where, because we do almost everything in Google Sheets, and I will launch, I'll wake the machine or whatever, and my whole screen or the whole app will just freeze. Like Chrome just freezes. And it won't let me click into the Google Sheets document.
Interesting.
And it after a little bit of processing or something, after a little bit of loading, then it starts finally. But that's happened to me several times now, and I'm curious, do you think I should try using Credge with Google Drive stuff, or is Chrome the best way to go?
There's no reason not to.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In that its ability to render the pages and everything will be identical. I've not experienced the problem you're having. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I did just do a bunch of updates, so maybe it's fixed.
Yeah.
So here's kind of a related issue that I had. So I was using Credge I use it on Windows 10 and Windows 7, right? Chromium-based Edge. And for some reason, about a week or so ago, something changed in Credge that I couldn't use it anymore with our internal CMS at ZDNet. It just stopped working, and it was screwing everything up. And the engineers sent a note, and they said, stop using that. I don't know what you're using, but stop, because it's not working.
That's ludicrous.
But then I went back onto the Surface laptop, and I was using Windows 10 with Credge, and I snuck back into the CMS, and I did a couple posts, and nothing was wrong.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know what's going on there.
I mean, I don't use the Google stuff all that much, but I just, as a weird coincidence, I mentioned that extension, and on the Surface Pro 7 that I'll be bringing to Ignite, I installed that extension. I also installed the Google Drive desktop app, which, syncs whatever you want down to the client like OneDrive does, right? And I don't typically do that, but I was thinking, in the course of investigating Chromebooks, it occurred to me that obviously most Chromebook users are going to use the Google stuff. So I'm not going to do it during Ignite, but in prepping for this future, I'm going to try to work as much as I can in the Google stuff for a couple of weeks, and I will be using that stuff. So I'll look at that, but I can't imagine why that doesn't work properly. That seems like that would just work.
I know.
My next.
Yeah, I've used Chrome also on the Surface Laptop 3, and I've opened different things in like mail, photos, calendar, and it's all worked okay.
Okay. Yeah. And like I said, I just installed updates, so it could have been a deal with early on stuff.
I hope so. Yeah.
But that was my next question, actually. Is it common to have to restart the machine in order to receive the next round of updates? So right now I had, so last night I was updating, and I basically kind of had to sit in front of the machine, and then when it relaunched, then I would click check for updates, and then there'd be a new update, it would download, it would install, you click restart, and then it restarts, and then it starts up again, and you'd have to do it again, and it kept, updating whatever it needed to. Is that a common thing, or is there a possibility to update all at once?
You shouldn't have to micromanage it.
Okay.
No.
I think this says more about us as people than it does about Windows as being terrible. But I guess if you want to micromanage updates and go and manually check, obviously you can. If the computer needs to be updated or rebooted to update, it will prompt you for that, right? Mm-hmm. And you can choose when to do that within a reasonable time frame. So I think once you get up and running, like now that you've had it for a while and you're up to date, so you're on the schedule. So God willing, the next, set of updates you have to worry about is the second Tuesday in November, which is probably 2 weeks from today. You shouldn't really have to deal with it until then, and then even then you're not going to be prompted to reboot that day. There'll be some period of time before it.
In fact,
I mean, you can do it and,
so I had to go into advanced options, but I was able to turn on an option that says show a notification when your PC requires a restart to finish updating.
Yeah.
There we go.
That way, and it will give you the opportunity to schedule it if you don't want to do it right away.
This Okay. So
don't be a seeker. Just don't be one.
Yeah. Well, no, I think a lot of people in tech, right? We are.
I know.
This is our version of being on the spectrum.
Chrome issue. I just wanted
check for updates.
Google
Check for
Drive
updates
to work.
Listen, if it's like watching toast, happen, right? So the problem with updates in Windows 10 is you could check 10 times a day, and there would be an update. It's going to be a Windows, Defender type. They don't call them this anymore, but whatever they call the definition updates. Like those things happen all the time. So I guess if you want to update your computer all day, you can. I recommend, and I can't follow this advice, but I recommend not looking that much. Just let it happen in the background.
Okay. I'll try to let go and let Elvis.
Yeah, I can't do it either, but
again, I was like sort of because
you were hoping for a fix.
I was hoping for a fix for my Google Drive thing because I need to be able to quickly access the dock whenever I'm talking on a show. And so to have it, the screen falls asleep. I start the screen by shaking the mouse and then, the trackpad, jiggling the cursor. And then I can't access any of the links in my document. That's obviously an issue when I'm doing a live show. And so I thought, okay, maybe it just needs to get some updates so that will fix that issue so that I can use this as I want. Because like I said, I want to be using, this machine is so much lighter than my 15-inch MacBook Pro. And plus it's so soft and pretty. So I want to use it for as many shows as I can.
I mean, I would try it in Credge. I don't think, I don't think just launching that one tab without everything else would probably help too much. But I suppose you could. I don't know how you work. I mean, you might have a million tabs open. I don't really know, but I don't know. I don't understand why that's happening. It doesn't seem. And it also doesn't seem like it's a system issue per se, but rather a Chrome issue.
Gotcha. Yeah, that very well could be. All right, I'll give Craig a shot with that one and see if that helps things. Other than that, I've really, like I said, a lot of the stuff is just clicking for me. What's a good way to? Where's a place I can go to see all of or many of the keyboard shortcuts? Is there like a help menu built on in Windows?
That's funny.
Or is
no? Well, there is a. There's probably there's like a tips app, but I don't think that's going to have what you're looking for. There is a Power Toy that has I think it's the Windows keyboard shortcuts only. I will say that for the most part, you probably know this, that the command whatever type shortcuts from the Mac are basically control whatever, right? So control C, command C, et cetera. I think I'm not sure of a great resource that I apologize. I will say, because as a writer, I want to use the keyboard. I don't want my hand off on the mouse. So
same, yeah.
I use shortcuts I don't think other people even know or remember exist. Like if you I just do it without even looking. I don't even know what I'm typing. So if you type like Alt space, you get we've lost the name of this thing, but there used to be something called a control box up in the left corner of every window. It's still there. It's just hidden, and it has a menu associated with it. And so before Windows apps could have menus of their own, this was how you had a menu. And so there's a menu over there. And so you can minimize from there. So for example, if you want to minimize just the current window, it's like Alt space to bring up the menu and then N. And it minimizes. Like I do that all the time. I do that all day long. Like I do it so much I forget I don't even sort of realize what I'm typing.
Yeah, it's muscle memory by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I forgot about that. Whatever letter is underlined, that's the character you hit, correct?
Yeah, that's huge.
Wow, throwback. I remember that.
Yep.
You also could just search for Windows 10 keyboard shortcuts and get a list.
I found a Windows support document now.
I get that too.
And I'm going to be crawling through there today, folks. I have an exciting day ahead of me.
Yeah, the F11 for Maximize is pretty consistent. One thing you might want to know, one thing that's good to know is the snap commands.
Yeah,
for putting the windows on screen. So if the current window, well, it's selected.
We've got a disagreement here. I like Snap stuff, but it looks like Mary Jo's not into Snaps.
I can never get it to work. Ever.
Oh, I see.
Ever.
I actually install a utility in the Mac that emulates this. I love it so much. So Windows key and the arrow keys basically. So you can move a window around the screen. You can go. Use depending on which arrow key you're using.
I don't even have to use my cursor to snap. I can, like you said, oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So you can go up for maximize, down for minimize, left, right. If you have multiple displays, it will keep moving the thing across as it goes,
Oh, my goodness. And even like 1/4 screen.
Yep.
Wowie. All right. This is great.
Yeah. That's some good stuff.
So I only use 2 keyboard shortcuts and I don't know any others.
Okay. What are your 2?
Control C, Control V for copy and paste, and Windows key period to bring up the emoji list.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's one I did not know, and I think I was forcing it out of my brain, so I'll never use an emoji.
Thank you, Mary Jo, because I definitely needed to know
Control S for save.
Control I don't know O that. For open. I never use those.
Wait,
Yikes.
Hold on.
Right,
how do you say? Oh, is it auto saving stuff? Or you
no, I just hit file save.
Wait, you go and you click?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just don't remember keyboard shortcuts. That's just not a way I work at all.
Holy moly.
I know, weird.
Windows key plus X will bring up that. This isn't the real name of it. I forget the real name, but it's quick settings menu, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the power user menu, like all the old tools.
It's got everything there. Network connections. Disk management. I got to remember that Windows plus period. I can't forget.
If you're on a laptop, you should try, I think it's Windows key plus M. I can't test it here, but I believe that will bring up the Mobility Center, which is like a Windows Vista tool for mobile computers.
It looks like it just minimized my Windows key plus M. Let me try again. Windows.
Oh, it minimized. Yeah, no, it minimized everything here too. That must be wrong. All right.
Windows
Never mind. That
mobility.
was a terrible one. Windows key plus P will bring up the project menu if you have multiple displays.
Ooh.
Here's a useful one, though, that somebody's contributing. Jason Dean, Windows key plus L. Quickly lock your PC. Very important for me when people mess with my PC.
Oh, I like that.
If you're ever around Brad, Sam's, or I, you need to lock your computer if you're ever going to leave the desk.
Well, see, here's the problem. I locked my screen, but because I set up Windows Hello with Paul Thurrott in the background, he could still get into it if he wants to.
Right. Do you want me to duck down?
No, that's not true.
Close my eyes. I'll close my eyes so it doesn't.
They made me move him out of the screen in order to do it.
That's funny.
Here's all the Windows logo. They call this, interestingly, Microsoft support document calls it the Windows logo key. As opposed to, I think you called it the start key.
Windows key or whatever.
Yeah. Open Action Center. What's Action?
Yeah, Windows key plus A is Action Center.
I'm looking for your mobility menu.
They probably don't document it much because it's such an old-fashioned UI now. But that used to be, if you were on a laptop and like a lot of times it'd be like you want to walk in and present or something, it would go into presenter mode and stuff. It's different little mobile utilities.
Now, what is and I know we're kind of going all over the place now, but what is mixed reality mode? What's happening?
You need a mixed reality headset. So.
Okay. Well, don't give me a keyboard shortcut for something I can't use. Come on. I'm just kidding. Cool. All right. Well, there's a lot for me to learn here, and I'm looking forward to open the Connect Quick action.
Connect Quick action?
Searching for wireless.
Is it Connect or Connect? Oh, Connect. Like the Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can connect to a television or an audio thingy. All right, I'll stop now. And by the way, my game bar finally updated, Paul, so I can actually do a real... Yeah.
So you see what I'm talking about? Multi-pane.
Yeah, it's
it's incredible what's on there.
And in fact, I got a badge for having performance stats on here. So that was fun. My first Xbox badge. I don't know if that's what they're called.
Like achievement or whatever.
Yeah, achievement. All right. Anything else, Mary Jo, on that on your Surface Laptop 3 review?
I don't think so. Battery life, I'm getting about 6.5 to 7. Microsoft claims 11.5, I believe. So as I always say, I never really believe battery life numbers from anybody, and I'm happy I'm getting at least that. So my guess about this is I think what Microsoft, they now measure battery life instead of in continuous video loop playback as real world usage, which is good. That's a better number to be going against. But the way I use a PC is probably different than many other normal people do, which is when I'm on my PC, I'm using it constantly, right? Like I don't use it intermittently like a salesperson might, do a couple things, come back, do a couple more things. I use it like nonstop for hours. And I'm guessing that's why my battery life is lower.
Okay, that makes sense, as opposed to where they're trying to show.
That's just a guess.
They're averaging for different real world use cases, maybe. Yeah,
but don't you love like the instant on? You open the thing and Hello recognizes you and it turns on and you don't have to touch anything. No button press or anything. It's just like you're on and you're in and done. That's how instant on's supposed to work, and it never did.
And it finally does.
Yep.
Actually, for what it's worth, on the Surface Pro 7, it isn't quite as well. It is instantly on, but I don't use the hello thing. I use like a pen.
Okay. Yeah.
So on that particular computer, of course, you do this. You walk up to a computer, hit Control key or whatever, wait till the screen comes on, and then I just type them in. On that one, the screen comes right on. The screen is instant on, but what isn't instant on is the keyboard, and you can tell the keyboard's on because it lights up when it comes on. So the screen comes on, it's like 1, 2, and then you can type it. And it's just, I think it has something to do with just the type of connector it has, and it's not a hardware, like a laptop. It's something you can pop off. But it's interesting because it's really not a long time, but compared to like your laptop, it's literally immediate.
Yeah,
and on this one,
before
I realized what was happening, I'd start typing, and then I'd hit like the last key or something, and I'm like, why? It's like, what's going on here? And then I finally realized it's not on yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Kind of annoying. So you have to do, by the way, for Mobility Center, you hit on Windows 10. This was according to the chat. Thank you, chat. You hit Windows X to open up that special power user deal.
Yeah. No, I know, but there was a keyboard shortcut for it.
Yeah.
And it's only on a mobile computer. If you were on a desktop computer, you wouldn't even see that option.
Gotcha. All right. So
they must have changed it on me.
They must have. It's kind of a problem when people change things on us. We have to talk about JEDI. But first, I do want to tell you folks about Zapier, as they are also bringing you this week's episode of Windows Weekly. Now, growing a business is hard. You don't want to be wasting hours every day moving data from emails to spreadsheets to your CRM to wherever you need it to go. Shouldn't that just happen? Well, that's where Zapier can help. In fact, I ask that question a lot with all of the different processes that I'm doing. Shouldn't that just happen? And oftentimes Zapier can help me make that work. Zapier works with over 1,500 apps and is the easiest way to automate your work. You can focus on what matters most by connecting all your business software to engage your leads instantly, automatically import new customers, notify your team about opportunities, so much more. Also, Zapier is more customizable because they support multi-step zaps. So that makes the possibilities virtually endless. In fact, you don't just have a simple situation where you have a thing that you want to do, and so the trigger happens and then your action takes place. You can set it up so that if this happens, I want this thing to take place. If this happens, I want this thing to take place. It basically can get very conditional and can also take multiple steps. So you could start in a doc and then convert that the text in that doc to plain text before passing it on to one of the actions that you want to do. Honestly, it can get so in-depth, you can nerd out completely, and that's honestly why I like Zapier. It's a place to get creative, regardless of what you're trying to set up. You can build the solution you need in minutes, so there's no more wasting time on tasks that you know could be automated, because that's exactly what Zapier was built to do. You go to zapier.com/windows, connect the apps you use most, and let Zapier take it from there. Best of all, it's easy to build the exact solution you need in minutes without writing code or asking a developer for help. So you don't have to rely on anybody else. And honestly, I recommend just go to zapier.com/windows right now and start to connect some of the apps that you use the most. And Zapier is going to give you suggestions for some of the integrations you can build. And what's fun is once you set up those integrations that that they recommend to you, then you start to see, oh, I could just adjust this a little bit with an extra step, or I could adjust this with some conditions. And suddenly you've got all of these things happening. You're building out a project and everything's being made easier, or you're just, like I said, having fun. I kind of like to go in there and just play around. In fact, the other day I was driving home from work, trying to breathe in the smoky air, and I had this little bit of an inspiration where I thought, oh, I bet if I add this app to Zapier, I can improve one of the zaps that I have. And I was able to, and it saved me 6 or so steps that I would normally take in a given day. So there's a lot of time saved. You can join more than 4.5 million people who are saving an average of 40 hours per month. That is ridiculous. 40 hours per month saved by using Zapier. So one of the projects that I worked on here, one of the zaps that I have in place, I do a show called Tech News Weekly, and we use a prompter for that show. And it was that we would have a script, that goes into prompter. And so you'd copy that, you'd open up a text document on your PC, you'd drop that text in, then you'd save that file and put it in the correct Dropbox folder, and then it could be brought up on the prompter. I thought that was a little bit complicated, so I wanted to trim it down a little bit. Well, with Zapier, I have it set up to monitor a folder. So you can we copy that text, it gets put into a Google Doc that goes into that folder, and then Zapier converts it to plain text, saves it as a text document, and then moves it into the Dropbox folder automatically. So it saved a little time, and in fact, I'm thinking about going back in and making it even faster. You can make more time to grow your business. Right now through the end of next month, try Zapier free by going to zapier.com/windows. That's zapier.com/windows for your free 14-day trial. I'm serious. Go to zapier.com/windows, sign up, and just give it a go. Start connecting your apps and see what Zapier suggests for you and how it can make things faster. We thank Zapier for sponsoring this week's episode of Windows Weekly. And now, this is the JEDI contract you're looking for?
This was so crazy.
This is interesting.
Friday night around 7:30 East Coast time, I started seeing people tweeting, Microsoft won the JEDI contract. So the JEDI contract is Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, and it's estimated to be worth $10 billion over 10 years.
Actually, can I tell you a similar thing? I was out with a guy that night from Microsoft, and simultaneously, our phones buzzed, and we looked down, and he looked at his, and he showed it to me, and it was about this. And then I showed mine to his because someone else from Microsoft had texted me to tell me they won the contract. Like, it was like the most bizarre.
That's
it was
hilarious.
like happened at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Microsoft wasn't favored to win this. It's been something that's been going through the bidding process for several years. Over time, different people have been dropping out. Like Google dropped out. They said they dropped out because their workers were against working for a defense contractor, but they also dropped out because they didn't meet the criteria. Oracle contested this, and they were tossed out. Like, you don't really even have a cloud. Stop trying to pretend. So it came down to Microsoft and Amazon. Then this summer, President Trump protested the way that some of the, quote, potential conflicts of interest were happening. And so he told his people to put the contract on hold. So I thought this was kind of like an indefinite hold, or at least they were going to rebid the whole thing. And then Friday, boom, Microsoft wins.
Amazon's going to contest it.
I would assume.
I have to say, honestly, the thing that makes sense here the most, regardless of how you feel about these companies, is that the contract should be awarded to both. It makes sense that this stuff should be on different services. I mean, just like it should be for any large enterprise. You don't put all your eggs in one basket like that. That's crazy.
I know. So throughout the contract, a lot of people made that argument and asked about it in comments when they had an RFP request for comments. And in the end, the Department of Defense said, no, we're going to make it a winner-take-all thing. But if you look at the actual announcement from Friday about how they talked about this, they said, today, the Department of Defense has taken another step forward in the implementation of our cloud strategy. And they talk about multi-vendor, multi-cloud environments. So that's not how that contract is written, as far as I know, unless they've changed something in that contract.
It's also a 10-year contract, right? So Microsoft isn't getting a check for $10 billion. They're getting $1 billion a year, assuming that it goes forward each year. Right.
Yeah, so the first 2 years, $210 million is expected to be awarded. This is for infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. It's like the whole gamut of things you can do in the cloud. We don't know what's going to happen. Amazon hasn't publicly said, I don't think, that they're going to contest it. But I can't imagine them not contesting it unless there has been a provision put in or it's changed in some way that it truly is a multi-vendor thing.
So this is a contract for what exactly? It's just sort of running their services via the cloud.
They're killer robots that we're going to inflict on our enemies. They're using Microsoft AI. Actually, they're using Cortana. And
that's why it's going to be a win.
It's going to say, hey, Cortana, kill the enemy.
Oh, no. Hey, Cortana, print out some new soldiers.
Yeah, exactly.
They have all these old legacy systems in the Department of Defense, right? And they're saying they want to turn them into cloud, commercially available cloud, IaaS and PaaS services for all department missions and businesses. So it's like everything.
So not floppy drives anymore. We're going to...
I'm sure they have card stacks in some of those buildings. I mean, it must be the craziest old-fashioned thing in the world.
Yeah.
See, so then I think that speaks to, Paul, what you were saying is that don't have an easy target all from one company. Let's diversify by having multiple companies on board to help with this.
Plus, you're the U.S. government. I mean, my God, picking a single company for something this important, I think, sends the wrong message, just competitively as well.
Agreed. Especially, oh man, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit of money. Yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft stock went way up after this was announced, I think to a record high. Everybody's been very quiet about it. Like Microsoft's like, yeah,
well, not everybody. Jeff Bezos from his Bond villain lair up in Seattle was.
Has he said something?
With his little monocle and his Cheshire cat or whatever.
I know. Has he said something?
No, not there. But Amazon has said that they're going to contest it.
Oh, they have. I didn't know they did say it. Yeah.
Well, I guess we're in for a battle.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like Satya Nadella versus Bezos?
Bezos.
Yeah, that's concerning, honestly.
It is.
Well, I think it's Xbox time. That's the part where Mary Jo and I sort of relax and learn about all the things that are happening in Xbox.
I'll make this one as painless as possible. Because actually only one of these is super interesting. Microsoft has a program called Xbox All Access that lets you buy Xbox hardware on a payment plan, essentially. When it's over, you own the hardware. What's interesting is they just upgraded this program to include a version that has their highest end console, which is the Xbox One X. And they've struck the 18-month console upgrade option and instead have a limited time 12-month console upgrade option because 1 year from now, they're going to have a new console. And that means if you pay $31 a month, it's on a 24-month plan, 0% APR. In 1 year, you will actually get the next generation console, which is codenamed Scarlett. We don't know a heck of a lot about it, but it's going to come out at roughly the same time as the PlayStation 5, obviously, and be roughly comparable. So that's actually kind of interesting.
Now, this is where you trade in at the end of the term, correct? It's like you send
this
back
one you would. So typically the way these things work is you pay for this thing over 2 years and then you own it.
Gotcha.
Right. Now, in this case, what you're going to do is pay for 1 year. And I assume you're handing this thing back, right? You wouldn't have paid off an Xbox One X in 1 year at $30 a month.
Right.
You do the math there. Right. And then they'll hand you the Scarlett, and then that one you would get to keep after because you're essentially paying for the thing you're going to get next year.
That makes
sense. It's so American. Yeah. It's wonderful. Pay us for something you want. We'll give you something else until it arrives, and then you'll get the thing you want.
This will tide you over. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
No, honestly, this is, it seems to be the way that everything else is going in terms of like our mobile devices and things like that. So why not also do
how many people walk into an Apple store with a $1,250 in cash,
right,
and say, I would like a iPhone 11 Pro Max or whatever it's called, and I mean most people throw it on a plan, of course.
Yeah. So I think this is good for folks who are looking to get the latest and the greatest. Now, what do we know about Scarlett?
Very little.
Okay. So
I think the central message here, if you're a gamer, is 4K at 60 frames a second is the alleged minimum, right? So one of the problems with the Xbox One X is that it does do 60 frames a second. It does do 4K. It almost never does both of those things at the same time. And so depending on the game, you're going to compromise in one direction or the other. Call of Duty type game, you're probably going to be running at 1080p so you can get, 60 frames. So this one, the deal is it will do both. And the way that Xbox One especially has worked historically, and actually this goes back to Xbox 360, is your current library just gets upgraded as you go. So if you get a better console, your existing games are all going to look better. You don't have to do anything special. It's just sitting there, kind of waiting to happen. It just will be better on the new console. And what that means now is that game makers can put in the assets to it. Well, the assets are already kind of there. They really don't have to do much. But, if you're running a game that today is, 30 frames a second or whatever it is, you'll get a bump on this new system. So that's cool. And plus, new games will be designed to always look and work the best.
Cool. Now, this design for Xbox, is this the part that I'm confused about? Are these just like the clips and things, or are these games that you can play as well? No,
what this is like an ecosystem program. So in other words, Microsoft officially licenses the design for Xbox logo to third-party accessory makers. It could even be things like towels and shirts and whatever. It's just like it's a way for the Xbox brand to get out into the world on third-party products. And what they're doing here, obviously to date, or maybe not obviously, but to date it's been console-based. They're expanding it to mobile because Project xCloud is going to work on phones and so forth. And so there'll be these accessories that will be designed for Xbox logoed merchandise, meaning they're official and Microsoft sanctions them. And they announced the first one, which is a game clip. And I think, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, we talked about, the $10 game clip that I bought for, or I guess we'll call it a phone clamp, I guess, is a clamp that you put onto your Xbox wireless controller, connect the phone to it, and you can play the xCloud games that way. And so the first third-party clamp, although it's called a gaming clip, has been announced, but there'll be a bunch of this stuff. I mean, obviously the mobile gaming thing is going to be really huge for Microsoft and for the third parties as well.
I'm looking forward to my Designed for Xbox house slippers.
Exactly. This is some pretty good logoed merchandise if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe a dog sweater as well, something like that.
Yep, like a little tube you can embarrass your dog with.
This is fascinating to me because this is now the second popular gamer who's left. So Ninja decided to stream exclusively on Mixer, moving from Twitch. And now we've got, I don't never remember their names, their fake names. Who's the next person?
Shroud is the next guy.
Shroud is also.
Yeah, this is not my generation.
This is my younger brother's generation.
Yeah, this is
sure.
not my thing. But this guy's huge. He has 7 million followers on Twitch, and now he's moving to Mixer. So.
Now, these are all about the money. As far as for the players, this is all about, hey, come play on our thing exclusively and you'll have a contract, right? Like, that's why they're making the move.
Imagine you get a guy who, like Shroud. So Shroud has 7 million followers. Are all 7 million going to follow him to Mixer? Probably not. Will several million follow him? Yeah. And Microsoft's service is not doing well compared to, say, Twitch or YouTube or whatever. This is a way to get eyeballs on the service, and that benefits everybody. So I go back and forth, and I don't know what they're paying these people exactly. It's obviously millions of dollars.
Right.
Is that a good way to buy eyeballs? Yeah, probably.
I think so.
Isn't it? Well, isn't it like, I don't know, there's a hit new series on ABC or whatever, and the actor's really popular, the actress, whatever, and ABC wants to buy them, or CBS or whatever, and you spend a bunch of money and you bring the show. I'm not following this kind of stuff too much, but does that kind of thing work? Yeah, probably. If Howard Stern went from one radio service to another, did that bring a bunch of people to that new service? Yeah. So. Yeah, I guess this is the new world.
Yeah, and this is a little bit. There are some parallels here, but to compare it to what's happening in tech news. Google buying Fitbit and getting all of those people who use Fitbit to sort of compete with Apple. I think, again, these are people.
Let me offer you a comment that I believe came from Tim Cook, or if not, this was based on something he said. It was something like 2 turkeys don't make an eagle. I like that Google is buying Fitbit. I think it's cool. I really thought Android Wear or Wear OS, or whatever they're calling it now, was actually pretty good. I own Fitbit. I've owned a bunch of Fitbit products. I think they're great. I don't know. Neither one of these guys have done very well in smart watches. So
we'll see.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see.
Good luck.
2 turkeys, that's what they say.
Yeah. I think someone said it. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody.
Yeah, who did say that? No, it was Vic Androtto, wasn't it?
Oh, it could have been, yeah. It was, and he was at Google at the time, right?
Yeah.
Or was he at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Vic Gandotri, yep. And
Yeah, Tim Cook might have said you can converge a microwave oven and a refrigerator, but it doesn't mean that anybody wants such a product. To which I would have replied, yeah, but you could converge a microwave and an oven, and lots of people want that product.
This is true.
Amazon's
made it.
What's
along with
or a toaster and an oven, or
you could converge a microwave with a vacuum cleaner, and some people would want it.
I guess, yeah.
It would be odd, but yeah.
It would be odd, but it's all an all-in-one product. Yes, thank you for humoring me there. Let's go ahead and move on to tips and picks, because we're getting punchy, or at least I am. It's finally time to tell us your tip that you hinted at earlier.
Right. Yeah. So I've talked about this a lot, but just again, one of the things that's neat about Google Chrome, and it's available now in the Chromium-based version of Microsoft Edge, is that you can pin any website that you use to your taskbar, start menu or whatever, as if it were an app, right? So you can pin apps into your taskbar. You can pin like websites too. Of course, with the emergence of PWAs, a lot of these things can actually be installed as well as apps, and they behave like apps. They work offline. They offer notifications, et cetera, whatever they do. I feel like, it's interesting. It works a little different in the new Edge than it used to. So I don't actually have Chrome on this computer, but if a website is just a website, you can go up to that settings menu, go down to more tools. And I think the option is something like save to desktop or pin to desktop or something like that. But in the new version of Microsoft Edge, that option is actually called pin to taskbar. And it does just what it says it does, except for one thing. When you pin it there and then you run it, it actually opens into a tab in a browser window rather than opening in an empty application window, which is what I think most people want when they pin something. So the trick here in the new Edge, I don't know why they make you do this, but it works like it does in Chrome, which is that you type edge : / apps. And that will give you a list of all, it's not just apps. It says installed apps, but it's actually anything you've pinned this way. And in my case, for example, I just did this with YouTube Music. If you right click on that, there's an option that says open in full browser. And if you uncheck that, that thing will now run like an app, not like a web browser tab. Yeah. So for example, I was thinking, I almost blurted this out earlier. You were talking about using Google Sheets. You could pin that site to your taskbar. It would look like an app rather than a browser window. But I think the problem is, even if you didn't have Chrome or Edge running in the background, once you clicked on that thing, it would still have to start the browser up, obviously.
Right.
So there's probably no performance benefit to doing this. But there's a user experience benefit to doing this because it just makes it look and work more like an app,
Yeah, that makes sense. In fact, I'm going to use this to pin this Windows Weekly OneNote.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll be great. Then it'll be easy to get there every time.
Yeah, by the way, I should say, sorry, when you do it in Chrome, you actually get a little checkbox in the little notification window that comes up at creation time. So you can check it or uncheck it. I forget how it's worded, but if you want it to appear in its own window, you can do that at creation time. But in Chrome, you can always go to Chrome : / apps, and it will give you that same list. And then from there, you can right click and choose whether or not you want it to be in a browser tab or in its own window.
Cool. All right. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I use it a lot.
Folks out there, I hope that you get something out of that too. It looks like
that's the dream.
Yeah, that is the dream. That's the hope that we're helping people. It looks like we've got a game here for the app pickup.
Yeah, so I buried the lead because the single biggest news item this week is that the new Call of Duty game is freaking awesome, and I didn't approach this with a sense of dread. That's not the right term, but more of a sense of ambivalence. It's like they've kind of run out of ideas. They're bringing back like an old series from the past, and blah blah. Like it's like I don't know. Plus, they had a single-player campaign, which they skipped last time, which I thought was smart because the single-player campaigns have been terrible. And surprise, Paul, but like not only is the multiplayer unbelievable, and it's really stripped down. It's more realistic. It's there's no jumping on walls and flying through space, and it's just like boots on the ground combat. It's excellent. The single-player campaign is awesome. Like I haven't said that about a Call of Duty game since Modern Warfare 2, which has got to be 6, 7, 8 years ago. I don't even remember. A long time ago. It was still Xbox 360 days. So go back in time, whatever that is. It's a long time ago. This is a really good game. Like it's a really good game. And I was just expecting it to be like this year's Call of Duty, right? Like it'll be fine. It's always fine. I like Call of Duty. This is really good. I strongly recommend this. I was so excited. I just bought it for my son. I was like, you just play this.
Mary Jo, I know you've been owning it, right? You are just wasting.
Every time I see that little flash of a sniper rifle up on the bridge in the distance, I think to myself, that's her. It's Mary Jo.
It's Mary Jo. She's about to snipe me.
She's throwing with me. I get that little flash, and then it's like.
She sniped us all, hasn't she?
Yep. They do. I think about that sometimes.
I'm just not going to comment. Taking the fifth.
That's good. Yeah, you got to take the fifth.
She takes a sip from her beer and waits for me to pop around the corner again.
That's the thing. You're so chill about it the whole time. You're just like,
yeah,
got
exactly.
my beer here and I'm ready to.
Like, he's just going to come back to this. Yep, there he is.
He's like, who was that?
And then you just
I thought I heard giggling.
Off.
No, really, it's great. It's unusually good. Like, it's surprisingly good.
Cool. All right. What about our enterprise pick of the week?
Okay.
Also, Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Yes. Yes. Got a couple enterprise. Well, the codename pick and the enterprise pick are both related to Ignite, which is next week, and Paul and I will be there, and we'll be doing the show from there. And you guys are going to be streaming the keynote, I guess.
Yes.
Monday morning.
Yes.
So the first pick is about Microsoft's new project service, Microsoft Project. So last year at Ignite, Microsoft talked about how they were making some major changes to Microsoft Project. And if you go into the Ignite sessions for this year, there are a ton of sessions about the new project. Well, today, Microsoft, while we were doing the show, just announced that the new project service is now rolling out worldwide. So that's why there were so many sessions about this at Ignite, obviously. And the things to tell you about projects. So what Microsoft did was they took Dynamics, the project service in Dynamics, and the thing that has been called Project Online, and they mushed them together, and they made this new project service. They also are announcing today something they're calling the Plan 1 subscription for project service. So Plan 1 is the combination of Project Online Professional and Project Online Premium that already exist. So just to make things confusing, this new Plan 1, which is a combination of the other two things, is called Plan 1, and then Project Online Professional is called Plan 3, Project Online Premium, Plan 5.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm going to be writing a little more about this after the show is over. But yeah, this is a whole new look and feel for Project. It integrates more with Microsoft Teams and other applications. And this is where they're going with Project, if you're a Project user. And I always have people say, oh, who still uses Microsoft Project? Lots of people use Microsoft Project.
So
that's a tip for you.
That's a good tip for those who are using Microsoft Project.
Yes.
Very good.
Codename pick is also from Ignite. You know, every year before Ignite, here's what I do. I do this so you don't have to. There's like thousands of sessions posted. I sit there and click on each one and look at the descriptions. So I found a couple of sessions on something called Project Turing. And I'm like, I remember this name. What is that? So Project Turing is something Microsoft talked about publicly back in 2015. And it was all about how they could bring more real intelligence to AI, right? So that it's indistinguishable between people and machines when you're getting an answer to something. So that sounded very lofty, like, yeah, that's great, right? But what they're doing to actually make this into a commercial product is they're taking the machine reading technology that they acquired when they bought a company in Canada called Maluba, and they're integrating it into search. So you know now when you search for something, you get a URL as the answer usually. Mm-hmm. What they're trying to do is have machine learning be able to read more documents, especially corporate documents, and give you an actual answer to a question in words instead of a URL.
Neat.
I know. So this is kind of huge. And I think they're going to demo this in some way at Ignite, which will be, if it works, like an amazing, crazy demo. So keep your ears open, anybody who's going to Ignite or watching for coverage about Project Turing.
That sounds awesome. That sounds really cool. It
does. I know.
I'll definitely be keeping my eyes open for that one.
Yep.
Project Turing. All right.
You know, like Alan Turing and the Turing test and all that stuff. That's absolutely where the name comes from. Yep.
And to round things out, it's time for our beer pick of the week.
This is a beer pick in honor of the birthday boy, Paul Thurrott. So Paul doesn't drink a lot of beer anymore, but there is an amazing beer I would recommend to him on his birthday if he was drinking beer. It's from Prairie Artisanal Ale in Oklahoma, and it's called Prairie Birthday Bomb. It's an imperial stout. It's aged in bourbon barrels. It tastes like cake, almost chocolate, vanilla, and
you've described a lot of things I shouldn't eat or drink.
I know, and a little touch of chili that makes it just like perfect.
Oh, wow. I miss imperial stouts with all of my heart and soul.
They're so good, right?
They're so good. Oh,
they're
man.
so heavy and 13% fattening, but they're so delicious.
Very good. This sounds amazing, especially with that little bit of chili spice. It reminds me of like a Aztec hot cocoa almost.
Yeah, like Mexican hot chocolate or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, man. That sounds good, and I wish I could have it, but it's not my birthday, and it's not something I can have. But no, that's a good pick with a 97 rating. Whew.
I know. It's very delicious. I've had it a few times, and it's really good.
Both on and not on your birthday, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I dig it. According to my OneNote here, it looks like we've reached the end of another episode of Windows Weekly. So congratulations there, Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com. We're going to let you go so you can have your warm sushi and birthday bombs.
It's gotten dusty over the
dusty
course of our show. It's just... be fine.
Well, no, I hope you have a great day today.
Thank you.
And all days, of course. Thank you.
You too.
Mary Jo Foley of All About Microsoft and also the world-renowned sniper on Call of Duty. We do appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
And, of course, I am Micah Sargent in for Leo Laporte while he is on vacation here with my pal Elvis, the blue suede laptop. We record the show live every Wednesday, usually when Northern California isn't burning down at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 11 a.m. Pacific and 1800 UTC. So if you head to twit.tv/WW, you can find the site, which has links to subscribe to the show. So you don't have to worry about what day it's going out. It'll just pop right up in your podcast app of choice. But if you do want to tune in live, then you head to twit.tv/live to check it out then. Also, go ahead and head over to twit.community, twit.community. That's a great place to join the forum and have conversations with us there, where we're also keeping you up to date on everything. That is going to do it for us this week, folks. Until next time, this has been Windows Weekly. Bye.